Well, thanks everyone for joining us for this request for proposal webinar. This is for the Irrigation Innovation Consortium 2021 request for proposals, which opened last week on October 15. I'm Allan Andales, a professor in irrigation and water science at Colorado State University, and I'm the principal investigator for the IIC. And also with us is Dr. Tim Martin, the executive director of the IIC. So we're here to really provide you an overview of the RFP, and then we'd like to have a question and answer portion after this presentation to give you an opportunity to ask any questions or clarifications that you might have. So just a quick overview of what the IIC is about. The IIC is an alliance of irrigation industry partners and also university researchers. And what we'd like to do is collaboratively address short and long-term needs of the agriculture as well as the landscape irrigation sectors. And the primary goal is to accelerate the development and adoption of water as well as energy efficient irrigation technologies, tools, and practices. And as I said, the main goal of the consortium is really to bring together partners that would not normally work together and have an opportunity for collaboration and research. And this will advance the cross-disciplinary or institutional understanding as well, because the consortium brings together multiple partners. We have an opportunity to learn about each other, learn about our strengths, and bring our strengths together. Now, this is the graphic below is showing you the funding structure of the IIC, where we have a grant from the Foundation for Food and Agriculture Research, FAR, that is providing us $5 million for the 5-year project, which started in 2018. And the universities and private partners come in with matching funds, non-federal matching funds, to match dollar per dollar that FAR contribution. So potentially this project is a 10 million project once that 5-year time span is completed. Now, the webinar itself will cover the following topics. You can just quickly glance through the agenda for this webinar. And essentially, starting with an overview of priorities and some of the important details about the RFP, and then going into more detail about the requirements and the funding process and the timeline. The IIC has 4 priority areas or research themes, and these are outlined in this slide here. The first 2 are readily understandable by their titles. So water and energy efficiency. The second one is remote sensing and big data applications, mainly focused on improving irrigation management. The third one is looking at integrating the multiple tools that are available for management of these irrigation systems and bringing together, possibly even creating a platform, for example, of all these tools, all these sensors, for example, working together as a system. So that's what system integration and management is really geared towards. And then the fourth theme or priority area is accelerating the technology development and adoption. So in the adoption portion, this could include an educational component or outreach so that we could deliver or inform stakeholders about these technologies and increase the adoption. Now, going into the overview of this specific RFP, we have $600,000 available for funding for this cycle. And historically, the IIC in past RFP cycles has funded projects in the order of 50,000 to 100,000 per project. So that's historically what the funding has been for projects. But for this RFP, we would like to consider also smaller or larger projects. And the key thing here is to make your proposal commensurate or correspond to your objectives, whether smaller or larger. And the projects will be supported by FAR funding that comes through the Irrigation Innovation Consortium. And these FAR funds have to be matched by non-federal match dollars that are brought in by the partners. So these are non-federal match dollars. And we'll have a slide that has more specifics on this match. Projects are cost reimbursable. That means that once we have an award going to a project team, the team will submit invoices through CSU, and those will be reimbursed. Those costs will be reimbursed through the project. Now, at the bottom, you can see there that we have a maximum project duration of 21 months. It seems like an odd number, but the logic there is to give opportunity, especially for projects that are on field, that have a field component, to be able to have enough time to start up, buy sensors and hire personnel and get the project up and running, and then be ready to implement that project in the field. And some extra time to complete the project and also to complete the reports. So that's why the 21 months is there. And that is also good, gives the opportunity if you miss one growing season. If you miss one growing season, you still have a chance to implement that field project the next season. That should give the project team enough time. The IIC seeks projects that bring collaboration. This is the main goal of the IIC, is to spur collaboration that wouldn't have existed without this consortium. So industry partners, academic partners, as well as others are invited to collaborate. And we'd like to see high impact outcomes and also projects that advance sustainability in the irrigation industry among end users. Now, you will see in the RFP, and if you look on the website, the details, you will see that word pre-competitive. So we are looking for projects that are oriented to the pre-competitive space. And these bullet points here on this slide give you some specific guidelines on what that means, that pre-competitive. So resources that are being pooled for the public benefit, and most the partners not necessarily gaining a competitive advantage with the result of the research, but the results and the findings will benefit all of the partners and possibly society in more general terms. The data and results are open or accessible, but then this also gives the opportunity of commercializing whatever output the project has. Towards the end of the project, a private partner, for example, could take that pre-competitive knowledge that we've gained through the project and turn it into something proprietary. These are the major requirements of the project in terms of writing up your proposal. So that it has to have scientific merit, obviously, since we're going after high impact projects. So innovation oriented, and it should be addressing a critical research gap. That's also related to that pre-competitive language right there, where we're addressing a research gap that, or issue that is common to a broad sector of the irrigation industry. Should have integrated teams. Again, we're looking for that collaborative aspect where industry, academia, and other partners are brought in. It must involve at least one of the 5 founding university partners, and that includes CSU, Kansas State University, California State University, Fresno, Texas A&M, and the University of Nebraska, Lincoln. So either of those 5 founding partners should be involved. And it should lead to a creative and collaborative co-development of technologies or information systems and so on and so forth. This is really just giving you some more detail of how those 4 thematic areas or research themes could be focused on in terms of specific projects. It should demonstrate potential to be transformative for the irrigation industry, irrigation end users, and the society. And as we said, we'd like to promote adoption of technology. So it should include an outreach, education, or technology transfer component. Again, maximum project duration of 21 months. Now here's some more detail about the matching requirement. And just some simple formulas here. If you request IIC funding in the order of X amount, there is a requirement of cash match, and that cash matching has to be at least 50% of that amount that you're requesting. So this X amount is really what is being provided by FAR. If you get the award, that will be the one provided by FAR. Half of the matching has to be cash match. And we're asking for a total non-federal match of 1.25 times the request that we're requesting FAR to provide for the project. And there's really no upper limit on the overmatch. So we really encourage proposers to think big and not be limited by our funding availability. But if you have a big idea, we'd like you to propose it, and you can bring in as many partners with matching funds as you'd like. And in that case, for bigger projects, you can see the IIC funding as seeding, okay, providing a seed funding for a higher impact project. So more cash as part of their overall matching is encouraged, and also strong support from multiple partners is encouraged. We have all the details or specifics of what can be counted as cash versus in-kind matching on our website, irrigationinnovation.org. And if you go to the website and click on Apply Here, you will see a web page that has all the details about the RFP as well as the the different examples of in-kind as well as cash matching. This slide shows you the process of the project selection and how we select projects for funding. The IIC has what is called a research steering committee, which is composed of representatives from the IIC partners. And these come from both academia and industry, and they compose the research steering committee that reviews the proposals. And this committee gives the recommendation to the essentially the governing body of the IIC, which is called the executive committee. So the executive committee composed of founding members from academia and also founding industry partners. So the key thing, I think, for this webinar, the main thing to remember is that a letter of intent is required, and it is due November 23. And these are the main items that we'd like to see within that letter of intent. The letter of intent, there is a guide on the website, the RFP website, for specific requirements of the letter of intent, including formatting and page numbers. And if I remember correctly, there's a maximum of 4 pages. It's a 4-page limit on the LOI. And essentially the first page is really just to give you space to define your, put your team name and the title. And the rest you have space to pitch or explain your proposal and the pre-competitive advantage of your project, as well as how you would like to approach conducting the project. Now, the RSC will take these letters of intent, evaluate each one of them, and invite those proposals that meet the minimum requirements for an interview. So this is a virtual interview that will be conducted early to mid-December. And it's a 45-minute virtual interview. And it essentially gives the project team the opportunity to pitch the idea and also to clarify some of the ideas that they were proposing as described in the LOI. And usually the RSC will have some follow-up questions or clarifications that might not be clear in the LOI. Just ask for more clarification on some of the details that you mentioned in the LOI. So that's what that interview is about. But it's also a screening tool so that we can identify the LOIs that we think will should move forward to a full proposal. So after the interview process, the RSC will evaluate the outcomes of those interviews and propose those proposals that will be invited to submit full proposals. And the invitations will go out in January of 2021. And those that are invited are expected to submit the full proposal in mid-February. So that's the timeline. And of course, the full proposal will allow you to describe in more detail the project that you're proposing. Here's the timeline, just a quick overview of the timeline, and I won't read every single line in detail, but you can just scan through. Again, highlighting that November 23 is the LOI deadline, and just emphasizing that you should make sure that you submit the LOI so that you can participate in the rest of the application process. So we expect the announcement of funded proposals to go out in February 28th of 2021 with an expected start date of April 1. I'll just show you a couple of slides that have examples of the projects that have been funded by the IIC. So you can see here that on this slide that there are agricultural as well as landscape type projects. And you can also see the industry partners, that every single project does have an industry partner, because that's one of the requirements of the IIC RFP, is to really build collaboration between researchers in the academe and industry partners. And also emphasizing that you can see some projects have more than one industry partner. Again, encouraging broader collaboration. Here's another slide that shows you more examples. And at the bottom of this slide, if you click this link, this is also available on the website, the Irrigation Innovation Consortium website. There's a list of all the projects that have been funded, and you can refer to that in more detail so that you can see the abstracts. So there are abstracts describing each of those projects. And with that really wraps up the overview of the RFP. And thank you. I'd like to open it up now to question and answers. And on this slide, we also acknowledge all of our partners. You can see that we're trying to build a broad consortium here.